My name is Jody Kraft. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction. With me today, I have Ms. Ophir Kearns, the Supervisor of Elementary Education. Today, we are here to present the iReady classroom in mathematics. We apologize that our original recording, we had some technical difficulties, so we decided to re-record it so that everyone has access to this presentation. So we're going to go through the presentation similarly to the way we did last week. And we'll ask the questions that were asked in our original broadcast last week at the end of this presentation. So without further ado, we're here to talk about our new math program that we are doing this year in all of our kindergarten through fifth grade classrooms. We piloted this program last year in kindergarten, and we're super excited about the work that we're seeing in our mathematics classrooms across the district. So Mrs. Kearns, whenever you're ready.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Welcome to iReady Classroom Mathematics Parent Academy presentation. As Mrs. Kraft said, my name is Ophir Kearns, and I am the Supervisor of Curriculum and Instruction for our kindergarten through fifth grade here in Mahwah. So I'll start off by just giving you a little bit of background information about iReady Classroom Mathematics, and then we will have time to answer some questions at the end. So iReady Classroom Mathematics is a comprehensive research-based math program was designed to develop deep understanding of mathematical concepts. It focuses on reasoning and sense-making, student discourse, which is talking about math, and multiple strategies for problem solving. The program combines teacher-led instruction, student collaboration, and digital practice through the iReady Online MyPath program. Through the program, students are taught how to talk specifically about math, and not only in the sense of giving answers to problems, but really being able to listen to those around them, talk about their thinking with math using academic math vocabulary, and also giving signals as their peers are talking to show that they are engaged by sharing ideas, agreeing, disagreeing, and adding on to what others have to say. The goals of the program are to build strong conceptual understanding before the procedural practice. So really understanding the why behind what students are doing in math. So not just memorizing algorithms or facts in addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, but really understanding the process behind all of those. It encourages students to explain their thinking, provides differentiated instruction to meet all learners' needs, from extra support, reteaching and modeling, to extension activities that include some enrichment and also critical thinking, and strengthening connections between classroom learning and real-world math applications. The components of the lesson, so each day the lessons follow a similar process. K1 and then 2 through 5 are built very similarly. So in the beginning, there's a warm-up routine with a start slide where students activate prior knowledge and have a chance to use that math discourse and math discussion with academic vocabulary. They move into a try it, where students explore problems collaboratively with a partner or as a group. The model it, where the teacher and students model multiple strategies for solving the problem. Connect it, where students make connections and explain their reasoning. Independent practice, where they have a chance to apply their understanding on their own. And small group instruction, where teachers meet with targeted groups of students to either reinforce, reteach, or extend. So the student experience. So each day students experience similar framework for the iReady Classroom Mathematics. There are hands-on learning and discussion with peers, the math talk, explaining, reasoning, and defending answers. Opportunities to use multiple representations. They can use models, they can draw, they can use equations. They get regular feedback and reflection from peers and teachers, and encouragement to view math as something that they can understand and enjoy. And you'll see here 2 images, so 2 examples. So at the top, where it says, "Tell me a story," this would be an example of a learning center for kindergarten and grade 1. So students are encouraged to show multiple ways that they can create this story. So they're giving learning mats, they're given Unifix cubes, snap cubes as manipulatives, and then they're given number cards. And from there, it's their application of the problem. So they're creating problems and they're representing them both pictorially, concrete, and then in the abstract way. And on the bottom, you'll see different speech bubbles. These are part of the math discourse cards for 2nd through 5th grade, where teachers can start these sentence stems to get students talking about math. So did anyone get a different answer? Does your partner strategy make sense? What is different about your and your partner's strategies? And one thing I like about my strategy is. And in the beginning, students do rely on these to be able to start the discussions. But as the program continues, they begin to ask these questions of themselves and their partners without having to have the questions in front of them.
I just wanted to chime in here, Mrs. Kearns. I know one of the things
Yes.
that we've experienced in our walkthroughs and in visiting schools is that this discourse is happening in the math classroom starting at the kindergarten level. So you'd be surprised how engaging it is to have students actually think about what they're doing in the classroom, and then being able to have conversations with these sentence them. So they're using them in the beginning, but later, much later on, when they become used to this part of the practice, it's incredible to see. So Mrs. Kearns, can you speak a little bit about what you're witnessing across the grade levels with regard to the discourse in mathematics?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the great things is because each day looks very similar, the routine is built in and students learn what to expect and how to expect it. So in kindergarten last year, we had all of our kindergarten classes piloting it, and their warm up in the beginning is a start slide, and there are different options on the start slide. So sometimes it's same and different. So I walked into a kindergarten class one day and I sat down with the students as they were on the rug, and the teacher put up the first slide, and it was two images side by side. They were both bead strings, so a string with beads on them. One of them showed 5 green and 5 blue, so there was 10 beads altogether. And then next to it was another bead string with also 10 beads, but there were 7 green and 3 blue. And the students were told to turn and talk. What are you noticing? What is the same? What is different? And students turned around and they're talking to their partners, and I'm listening in, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. Some students were, the very basic, saying, I see they're the same because they both have green beads and blue beads. Some students were able to say they're the same because they have 10. And then some students were able to extend that and say, yeah, I see that it's the same because there's 10, but also it's different because one of them shows 10 by making 5 blue and 5 green, and the other one shows 10 by 7 blue and 3 green. So really to be able to kind of build on what each other is saying. And also it's an entry point for everybody. Any student looking at that picture can notice something, and there's no right or wrong answer to it either, which is wonderful. In the older grades, as students are talking about math and they're having discussions and they're going through the try it and they're all trying their problems on their whiteboards, you hear students with partners saying, oh, wait, I need to go back and revise my thinking. I noticed something new, or I want to change something that I did, or asking each other, can you explain that to me the way that you did it? And the teacher really is there as the facilitator, and also to take notes and feedback to then create groupings of students who need support in similar areas or who are ready for extension of these activities. So as the students are discussing, it's not the teacher's job to jump in and correct them or tell them what to say. It's really for them to then listen in and become part of this process and let the students kind of take the reins and really lead that discussion.
So the role of the teacher is more of a facilitator of the learning, right?
Absolutely. Yes. So each lesson spans about 1 week. Each of the days in the lesson is called a session, and each of those sessions is centered around a single powerful problem. So the program does not spiral as our previous program did, where students were learning a new concept each day and not having time to master it. This program is built to mastery, which was something that the teachers were really looking for when we were looking for a new program. They felt that they were spinning the wheels and constantly going back and forth between addition and then telling time and counting coins, and they didn't have a chance to sit down and master it. So in kindergarten through first grade, every lesson is built the same. They start with an explore day. They have 3 develop days where they can then develop and add on to the learning from the previous day. And the 5th day is a refine day where the teacher works with students to refine instruction, to give extension and challenge activities, and then an exit ticket quiz assessment where then they can see, are we ready to move on? Are there students who could benefit from support in a reteaching, or is everybody in the same place on this? And having it built that way, one, builds the routine, but it also allows students to really focus in and hone in on one topic before being asked to switch over and learn something new. In 2nd through 5th grade, these vary a little bit. They always start with an explore day, end with a refine day, but the number of develop days varies on the lesson. It could be as little as 2 develop days, or it could go up to 4 or 5 develop days, depending on the concept that the students are learning. So it's still the same process. Those days in the middle, the develop days, vary in the older grades. Each day follows this try, discuss, connect framework, and we'll get into that a little bit more on the next slide, but this is really the heart of the iReady Classroom Mathematics program. So in the try, discuss, connect framework, students are encouraged to try it by making sense of the problem and solving and supporting their thinking. And this is done either independently with a partner or in a small group, but this is not teacher-led. This is the student-led part where students are trying to answer the problem. And sometimes they can get part of it, sometimes they can't get any of it, and sometimes they're able to solve it in multiple ways. So after the start slide, the teacher puts up the try it, and the class goes through a 3-read process. So the first time the teacher will read the problem, and these are always word problems, whether you're in kindergarten or 5th grade. It creates a problem, a real world problem, using number stories. So the teacher will read it. Sometimes a student will read it out loud. Sometimes a couple students will read it, and then the class will read it together. And each time they read it, they get a little more information. So sometimes when the problem initially goes up, the numbers are blocked out, so you can't see. So it would say something like, Joey has blank apples, Mary has blank apples, and that's it. And the students are discussing, what do we think this problem is asking us? Do we want to know how many apples they have altogether? Do we want to know who has more apples? They're not going to know that until they've gone through this process. On the next time, they'll get a little more information. Now they'll know that Joey has 8 apples and Mary has 7 apples, but they still don't know what the question is asking them. So students don't have that opportunity to just look at the numbers and just spit out an answer without thinking through it. This forces them to slow down and think about the problem and what the problem is asking. Once they get through that 3rd read and now they have all the information, so Joey has 8 apples, Mary has 7 apples, how many apples did they pick all together? Now they're going to actually try and solve the problem. And they can do that by using manipulatives. They're always available to students. They can use that by drawing out pictures on whiteboards. They can use it by the standard algorithm, however they want to solve it. Again, there's no wrong way for them to try it. Once they've had the chance to try it, now they go into the discuss it. So they start discussing with their partners, and this is where the discourse comes in. So this is where students are really talking about the math. They're using academic vocabulary. There are 1st graders and kindergarteners using addend and sum. Our 3rd and 4th graders are talking about quotients and dividends. It really is wonderful to see them incorporating all of the academic vocabulary. They compare some of the class strategies, and while they're doing this part, the teacher's circulating to look at different ways that students solve problems so that they can then come up to the board and share the ways that they solved it. So it's not the teacher standing in front and saying, okay, here is how we're going to solve this problem. Everybody's going to take Joey's 8 apples and draw them on the board, and then everyone's going to draw Mary's 7 apples, and then we're all going to count them together. Some students might come up and show how they solved it by drawing out the pictures. Some students might come up and say that they knew how to add 8 plus 7 because they used a doubles fact, 7 plus 7, and added one more. So they're all sharing different strategies. And then the teacher is able to highlight the strategies that the students have used. The connection happens next, where now they can, 1, make connections between the strategies and see how different students solve them, but also then go on to apply the thinking to a new problem. So then the next problem will mimic that problem so that students can now apply one of the strategies that they learned. So even if they didn't get it correct in the try it, they now have multiple strategies that they can use in the apply, where they can use that time now to answer the question based on the strategies that they learned. At this time, also, the teacher will break up into small groups. So they might pull a group of students to the table who they saw all used a similar strategy and then challenge them to use a different strategy. They might call students up to the board who attempted a strategy, but they were a little off and maybe it didn't work. And now the teacher is going to present to them other strategies that they could use and guide them to solve it the correct way. And other students are working on either their MyPath on the computer or they're working on a hands-on activity. So students are in small groups after the try it and discuss it portion of the lesson.
I just wanted to jump in here and just, I love, from a framework perspective, instructionally, it's just really sound instruction, allowing students to explore and synthesize information and be able to problem solve. And when we talk about grit and stamina, providing those problem solving opportunities where students are working through their thinking, I think, and then allowing them to have discourse with their peers within the classroom, and then the teacher again acting as a facilitator, and then pulling small groups and providing either enrichment opportunities or remediation based on what she's hearing the students talk about within their partnerships is just really solid instruction. So the framework of this really just lends itself to just good work in the math classroom from the teacher perspective, but also the students really working through that grit and problem solving. I think is an incredible opportunity for our kiddos.
Yeah, and because the routine builds this in from day one, it really does become a safe space. Students aren't concerned about getting an answer wrong because it's not about just getting the answer. It's about the strategy, and the teacher can always find something in their strategy that they used to highlight. And then from there, if they need that reteaching or the reinforcement, they can go from there. But they're not scared to get an answer wrong.
And that's
So
that's
yeah,
music to our ears because oftentimes in the math
yes.
classroom it becomes about right and wrong, right? This is not
Hmm.
the lens that we're looking at math anymore. We're looking at it from a problem solving perspective and understanding that you can try a strategy and it may or may not work. And if it doesn't work, then you move on to a different one with new information or conversations with a peer in the classroom. So it's just building all of those life learning skills that we want to spread across all content areas.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the teacher end, for the teacher daily experience, the teacher is there to facilitate the math discourse as we talked about. The teachers use their data from the iReady assessment and lessons to target instruction. So because we already use iReady as our diagnostic that we administer 3 times a year to students, the data that you get from that iReady assessment, the teachers can then use to group students as well, because it will automatically pull them and put them into instructional groupings on the math end, where they group students based on specific needs that those students might need. It also provides prerequisite skills that allows teachers to look and see, are students ready for the grade level instruction, or do they need support in some other areas before they can be ready for that? And teachers then target those skills during small group instruction, either during the math rotation or during their win time. It provides small group and individual support, building connections between units and real world problem solving, and encourages a growth mindset around mistakes and perseverance, which we just talked about being so important, and so wonderful to see students being able to persevere through a problem and not shutting down because they got an answer wrong. On the side, you'll see just a snippet from the teacher book and what this looks like as partners are discussing. It gives suggestions for how to support partner discussion, where again, the teacher is the facilitator, not the one giving the information. So rather than saying, oh, I see where you made a mistake, it's with your subtraction, you should do this, the teacher could say, when you subtracted by place value, which place did you start with? And then that'll guide students to go back and look at their work and say, oh, I need to revise this. I started in the hundreds place. I should have started in the tens place. So it creates that work on the student to be able to then go back and reflect on the work that they've done. The homeschool connection. So at home, you can talk to your students and ask them to explain how they solve a problem. So as they're working through some of their homework, you could say, like, can you tell me about that? How did you get that answer? How did you solve that? Encourage them to use multiple strategies. If you see that they're using the same strategy for 3 problems, maybe say, hey, let me challenge you on one of these. Can you go back and show me another strategy to solve that? Playing math games that involve reasoning and number sense, celebrating their effort and not just the answers. And be on the lookout for family letters for each unit. At the beginning of each unit, there's a family letter that goes home. It's either printed out and the teachers will send it home, or sometimes it's in the student book and they either rip it out or they can show it to you in their book. And that really highlights what's going to be happening in that unit. And then the strategies that teachers are guiding students to use as well. So you can see how we're also teaching it in the classroom. The green pages in the student workbooks are review pages. They can be used in class for review, or they can be used for homework. So teachers can, decide if it's something that they still want to work on in class with students, or if it's something that they feel the students have mastered and they're ready to take home, they can send that home as homework. And there's also a fluency and skills practice component that students can work on in class and at home as well. And here's just a sample of what these family letters look like. So on the first side in purple, you'll see compare numbers to 10. This is what a kindergarten family letter looks like. So it will show you that this is what they're doing. And it'll show you the images of what students are seeing as well. And then it'll give you an explanation. So it says, dear family, your child's comparing numbers to 10. They compare the numbers of objects in 2 groups, and they also compare 2 written numbers. It gives some of the vocabulary so that you can reinforce that at home as well. They're using words like greater and equal. And then it'll show you a little bit more about what they're doing. So more about the math. They're showing you a number path, which is a tool that students can use. And then on the other side, you'll see this is from a 3rd grade. So subtracting 3-digit numbers. So obviously a much higher level skill for the 3rd graders. But again, it shows you the different strategies that students can use. They can use a number line to solve it. They can use the algorithm on the bottom, and it explains a little bit about how to do that. So now we'll review some of the questions that were asked at the first recording of this, and hopefully we can answer some of those again for you.
So the first question was asked about fact fluency and how this fits into the scope and sequence of mathematics. And the parent was alluding to, I guess we were all in school, memorization was something that we relied heavily upon to learn our facts. So we talked a little bit about fact fluency and how it's addressed in this program. So Mrs. Kearns, would you want to share your thoughts on fact fluency?
Sure. So Fact fluency, the definition of fact fluency has actually changed over the years. And in the latest version of the New Jersey standards for mathematics for kindergarten through fifth grade, they've taken out the language of automaticity, which is what we used to expect for students to just be able to rattle off their facts. And they changed that language to accuracy and efficiency. And what that means is that students are accurate in their solving of math facts, but they're also using efficient strategies. So memorization could be a strategy that some students use, but it's not the only way to do it. So being efficient in solving math problems is giving students strategies that they can pull from. So knowing, in addition, we have different strategies. We can make what's called a friendly 10. So knowing your facts that combine to make 10. So 5 and 5, 6 and 4, 7 and 3. Understanding the turnaround of those facts. If you know 7 and 3, you also know 3 plus 7. So being able to teach students these efficient strategies so when they get to a problem, they don't have to sit and count on their fingers or draw a picture for each of them. So it takes them from the basics and then it teaches strategies that then they can use to solve problems with accuracy and efficiency. And this is the same for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So it doesn't force a memorization of facts, but it rather teaches strategies to make students efficient in their math solving. And there are skills practice pages that students can use. And in second through fifth grade, there's also a game called Fluency Flight that students can log in, and it's 8 minutes a day of online fact fluency practice, but it's gamified. So they do really like it, and teachers are utilizing that in class as well.
Yes, as part of our work with MTSS, we're really looking at, not relying on a one-size-fits-all approach across all content areas. So recognizing with fact fluency, that's, as Mrs. Kern stated, some kids, it's beneficial. They memorize them and it's helpful for them, but other kids are not successful with memorization, and having different strategies at their disposal to utilize when necessary is a better approach to fact fluency. Just recognizing that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and that we're going to give students a multitude of strategies, and they are to select the one that works best for them in order to achieve the same goal. So just thinking about it from that lens, I think, will be helpful. One of the other questions was about MyPath and where it fits into small group instruction. And the parent specifically asked if MyPath replaces small group instruction.
Yeah, so the computer never replaces the teacher. Time with the teacher is always more important. However, that being said, while the student is working with a teacher, there are other students who are working independently. During that independent time is where MyPath comes in. And MyPath, again, uses that iReady diagnostic to now give students a path and a trajectory for them to make their typical or their stretch growth in that subject area. So it will look at the areas that they have had great success with and the areas that they've mastered, and then it will build upon that. And it will also look for skills that they need more support with, and it will give them questions in that skill as well. So while they're not working with the teacher, MyPath is one center that they can be working at. They work for our guidelines are 30 minutes a week per subject area. So 30 minutes in total on MyPath for math, and then 30 minutes for ELA. So for math, it's nice because it fits in during the math block as a rotation. And it might not be every day. They might be getting on for 10 minutes, 3 days a week, or they might be getting on for 7 minutes, 4 days a week, and making their minutes that way. But it's not a one-shot sit down 30 minutes on the computer each day, because again, the computer is not replacing the time with the teacher. It's an additional support to the time with the teacher.
And the last question we had was about enrichment opportunities and how this program allows for enrichment opportunities within the math block.
Yeah, so another reason why the teachers chose this program and why it was the unanimous decision was the opportunities for differentiation, and the ease at which differentiation is available. So there is differentiation built in for our ML learners. There is differentiation built in through the prerequisite skills for students who might not be ready for grade level instruction in a specific skill. And then there is differentiation available to extend the thinking and kind of use the outside of the box problem solving skills. And all of that is available to teachers for each lesson, and they're able to utilize it daily because it's right there for them, and they're not needing to create new things, and they're not needing to find other resources. The program really housed everything for them, again, from the support and supporting students who are in need of support all the way up to then differentiating and giving students critical thinking skills and problem solving skills, and even working at times if they need on above grade level skills. If they're ready to extend into the next level, teachers have that available to them as well. And I do remember, sorry, one more question that came up, and it just reminded me for special education, if students are in either a resource pullout classroom for special education, or if they receive in-class resource through a collaborative teaching model, all of our teachers are using this program right now, and our special education teachers are included in all of our professional development through the district, through iReady, through our math coach, and we also created specific special ed tailored professional development for them using the program so that they can utilize this as a resource. So because it's not just a program that they're using, it's a resource to support them in teaching their students and giving their students what they need based on their individualized education plans.
Great. Thank you very much, Mrs. Kearns, for your time.
Thank
Parents,
you.
if you have any questions about the program, how your child is progressing in the math classroom, please feel free to reach out to your child's teacher, or Mrs. Kearns, if you have questions about the program, feel free to reach out to myself. We're here to support you and your children in all aspects of their education here in Mahwah. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.